Welcome aboard, friends. You're now tuned into Black Magic. We're super excited to share today's story with you. What if Dobby discovered Harry was starving at age 3 and led every house elf in Britain to wage war on the Dursleys? If you enjoy what we do here, the best way to support us is by liking, commenting, and subscribing. We read every comment. Ready? Let's go. Chapter 1. The boy in the cupboard. Dobby's ears twitched as he appeared with a quiet pop in the alleyway behind a London shop. Master Lucius had sent him to collect a package, something that couldn't be sent by owl. Something that needed to stay secret. Dobby must be quick, he muttered to himself, clutching the small cloth pouch he'd been given. Master will be very angry if Dobby is late. The elf hurried through the shadows toward Nocturne Alley, keeping his large eyes peeled for any wizards who might spot him. Halfway there, he froze. Something tugged at his magic, a strange feeling, like someone calling his name from very far away. Dobby hesitated, torn between his orders and this odd sensation. It felt important. Powerful. And somehow, familiar. Just a quick check, he decided, concentrating on the magical signature. With another pop, he disappeared. He reappeared on a perfectly ordinary suburban street lined with identical houses. Privet Drive, the sign said. Nothing looked magical here at all. But the feeling was stronger. Dobby crept forward, following the pull until he stood before number 4. The November evening was already dark, and through the windows, he could see a large man, a thin woman, and a pudgy blonde child sitting at dinner. The magical signature wasn't coming from them. It was coming from, under the stairs. Dobby snapped his fingers, making himself invisible to Muggle eyes, and slipped through the front door. The smell hit him immediately, cleaning products, roast beef, and underneath it all, the unmistakable scent of unwashed child and urine. He approached the cupboard under the stairs, where a small vent was cut into the door. Bending down, he peered inside. A tiny boy with unruly black hair sat huddled on a thin mattress. Even in the dim light, Dobby could make out the lightning-shaped scar on his forehead. The boy couldn't be more than 3 years old, but he was so skinny that Dobby could count his ribs through his oversized shirt. Harry Potter, Dobby whispered, shock coursing through him. The Harry Potter. The little boy's head jerked up, green eyes wide. Hello, he whispered back. Is someone there? Dobby stepped back, mind racing. Every house elf in Britain knew about Harry Potter. The child who had defeated he who must not be named. The savior of the wizarding world, including house elves, who had suffered terribly under the Dark Lord's reign. And here he was, locked in a cupboard, half-starved. Boy! The shout from the kitchen made both Harry and Dobby jump. Who are you talking to? And nobody, Uncle Vernon, Harry called back, his voice small and frightened. Better not be. One more peep and you'll go without breakfast tomorrow too. Dobby's hands clenched into fists. The large man was threatening to starve a child who already looked like he hadn't had a proper meal in weeks. The package for Master Lucius was forgotten as Dobby watched the family finish their meal. Not once did they acknowledge the little boy under the stairs. The woman scraped plates piled high with leftovers directly into the garbage. The man and woman then settled in front of the television while the blonde boy played roughly with a pile of toys, breaking several. Around 9 o'clock, the woman rapped sharply on the cupboard door. Bathroom, then back to bed, she snapped. The cupboard door opened, and Harry emerged, blinking in the light. Up close, he looked even worse. Bruises marked his thin arms. His glasses were broken and held together with tape. He couldn't be more than half the size of the other child, who looked about the same age. Harry scurried to the bathroom and back without a word, head down, moving like someone expecting a blow at any moment. In, the woman commanded, pointing at the cupboard. Harry crawled back onto his dirty mattress. The door slammed and locked. No goodnight. No hug. Not even a glass of water. Dobby felt something he'd never experienced before. Rage, pure, unfiltered rage, flooded through him, making his magic crackle at his fingertips. This was Harry Potter. The Harry Potter. And these muggles were treating him worse than most wizards treated their house elves. When the house finally fell silent, Dobby appeared inside the cupboard. Harry gasped, scrambling back against the wall. "Shoo," Dobby whispered, raising a finger to his lips. "Dobby won't hurt Harry Potter. Dobby has come to help." What are you?" Harry asked, eyes huge behind his broken glasses. "Dobby is a house elf," he said. "And Harry Potter is a very important wizard." "I'm not a wizard," Harry said automatically. "Uncle Vernon says there's no such thing as magic. I'm just a freak." Those words hit Dobby like a physical blow. He looked around the cupboard, at the few broken toy soldiers lined up carefully on a shelf, at the thin blanket, at the drawing of a motorcycle flying through clouds pinned to the wall. "Harry Potter is not a freak," Dobby said firmly. "Harry Potter is a hero." Harry blinked. "I'm not a hero. I'm just Harry." "Is Harry Potter hungry?" The boy hesitated, then nodded slowly. Dobby snapped his fingers. A sandwich, an apple, and a glass of milk appeared. Harry's eyes widened to the size of saucers. "How did you, magic?" Dobby said simply. Harry looked at the food suspiciously, then at Dobby. "Is it for me?" "Yes." "All for Harry Potter." Tentatively, Harry reached for the sandwich. After one small bite, he began to devour it like he might never see food again. Dobby watched, his heart breaking. "Why are you helping me?" Harry asked between bites. "Because Harry Potter helped all of us," Dobby said. "Harry Potter defeated a very bad wizard when he was just a baby. He saved many lives, even house elves like Dobby." Harry frowned, crumbs on his chin. "I don't remember defeating anybody. It was when Harry Potter was very small." "But Dobby must go now," he said, hearing movement upstairs. "Dobby will come back tomorrow night." "Does Harry Potter promise to tell no one about Dobby?" Harry nodded eagerly. "I promise." "Will you really come back?" "Dobby promises." "And Dobby keeps his promises." With a snap of his fingers, Dobby vanished, leaving behind a very confused but considerably less hungry little boy. The package sat heavy in Dobby's pocket as he returned to Malfoy Manor. He'd retrieved it after leaving Privet Drive, his mind still reeling from what he'd seen. "You're late," Lucius Malfoy said coldly, not looking up from his desk as Dobby appeared in his study. "Dobby is sorry, Master," the elf said, pulling out the package. "The shopkeeper wasn't there at first. Dobby had to wait." It was the first time Dobby had ever lied to his master. He felt his hands twitch with the urge to punish himself, but the image of Harry's thin face stopped him. Lucius snatched the package and waved dismissively. "Get out." Dobby hurried to the kitchens, where two other house elves were cleaning up after the family's dinner. "Pinky, Gory," he said urgently. "Dobby must tell you something important." The elves looked up, surprised by his tone. "What is it, Dobby?" Pinky asked, setting down the pot she was scrubbing. "Dobby has seen Harry Potter." Both elves gasped. "The Harry Potter?" Gory squeaked. "Where?" "Living with muggles. Bad muggles." Dobby's voice shook. "They starve him. Keep him in a cupboard. Call him freak." Pinky's eyes filled with tears. "But he's Harry Potter. He saved us from he who must not be named." "Dobby knows," he said grimly. "Dobby gave him food tonight. But he needs more help." "What can we do?" Gory asked. "We cannot leave without permission. We cannot disobey our masters." "Not directly," Dobby agreed. "But Dobby was sent on an errand near Harry Potter. What if we took turns? When our masters send us out, we check on Harry Potter first." The other elves exchanged nervous glances. What Dobby suggested wasn't exactly disobedience, but it skirted dangerously close. We would need more help, Pinky said finally. More elves. Dobby will speak to the elves at the Knott's house tomorrow, Dobby said. And they can speak to others. What about Professor Dumbledore? Gory suggested. He would help Harry Potter, surely. Dobby will try to find out, he promised. But until then, we must help Harry Potter ourselves. Over the next 2 weeks, Dobby visited Harry every night he could slip away. Sometimes he could only stay for minutes, leaving behind sandwiches and fruit. Other nights, he had longer to speak with the wide-eyed toddler, answering his endless questions about magic and house elves. Why does Uncle Vernon say magic isn't real when it is? Harry asked one night, carefully sharing his apple with Dobby, despite the elf's insistence he didn't need it. Some muggles, non-magical people, don't like to believe in magic, Dobby explained. It scares them. Is that why they don't like me? Because I can do magic? Dobby hesitated. Has Harry Potter done magic? Harry nodded solemnly. I think so. One time, Aunt Petunia cut all my hair off because she said it was messy. But the next day, it all grew back. And another time, Dudley was chasing me, and suddenly I was on the roof. I don't know how I got there. That is definitely magic, Dobby confirmed. Harry Potter is a very powerful wizard already. Harry beamed at the praise, then yawned widely. Harry Potter should sleep now, Dobby said, tucking the blanket around the boy. Dobby will come back tomorrow. As Harry drifted off to sleep, Dobby felt the now familiar rage building again. Every night, he found new evidence of the Dursleys' cruelty, a fresh bruise, a longer list of impossible chores for a 3-year-old, a day without meals. His network of house elves was growing. 12 now, from different wizarding families, taking turns checking on Harry when they could. But it wasn't enough. The boy was still trapped with these horrible people. Something had to change. The breaking point came 3 weeks after Dobby's first visit. He arrived at the cupboard to find Harry curled into a ball, sobbing silently. Fresh welts marked the backs of his legs. Harry Potter. What happened? Dobby whispered, horrified. Uncle Vernon, Harry hiccuped. He found the apple core from yesterday. I thought I hid it good, but Dudley told on me. Uncle Vernon said I stole food and then he got his belt and, he dissolved into tears again. Cold fury washed over Dobby. He'd been seen by the other boy, and now Harry had paid the price. Dobby is so sorry, Harry Potter, he said, gently examining the welts. Dobby will make it better. He passed his hand over the marks, using elf magic to ease the pain and reduce the swelling. As he worked, he made a decision. This couldn't continue. Not one more day. Harry Potter, he said firmly. Dobby is going to help you more. But Dobby needs a few days to prepare. Can Harry Potter be brave for a little longer? Harry wiped his eyes and nodded. I'm used to it, he said, with the resigned acceptance no 3-year-old should ever have. Not for much longer, Dobby promised. Things will change soon. When he left Privet Drive that night, Dobby didn't return to Malfoy Manor. Instead, he appeared in the kitchens of a grand country house where his friend Tinky worked. Dobby! Tinky exclaimed. What's wrong? You look terrible. Dobby needs to call a meeting, he said grimly. All the elves who know about Harry Potter. Tonight. It's an emergency. Tinky's eyes widened, but she nodded. The family is away until tomorrow. We can meet here. Within hours, 12 house elves had gathered in the kitchen. Dobby stood before them, trembling not with fear but with determination. Harry Potter is being beaten now, he said without preamble. The Muggles found the food Dobby left and punished him. We must do more. What can we do? Asked a nervous elf named Wispy. We've already broken rules by visiting without permission. Dobby has been thinking, he said slowly. What is our most important duty as house elves? To serve our masters, several voices responded automatically. No, Dobby said firmly. To protect magical children. That is older magic than our bonds. All the old stories say so. The other elves murmured uncomfortably. What Dobby suggested went against centuries of conditioning. Harry Potter saved us all from he who must not be named, Dobby continued. The Hogwarts elves say Professor Dumbledore himself calls Harry Potter the savior of the wizarding world. Does that not make all of us, all magical beings, responsible for his welfare? Tinky stepped forward. Dobby is right, she said. My mistress says Harry Potter is the boy who lived. He belongs to all of us, in a way. But what can we do? Gory asked again. We cannot take him from his family. We cannot use magic against muggles. The ministry would punish us. Not if they don't know, Dobby said. Not if we're clever. Dobby has a plan. But Dobby needs more help. He looked around at the circle of uncertain faces. Who will help Dobby protect Harry Potter? Slowly, one by one, every elf raised their hand. The Dursleys' troubles began subtly. Vernon's car keys disappeared, making him late for work. The milk spoiled overnight, despite being fresh from the store. Petunia's prized roses wilted mysteriously. Dudley's new television developed strange interference. Small annoyances, but they put the family on edge. Vernon grew snappish, taking it out on Harry with extra chores and less food. But now, Harry had a secret supply of sandwiches hidden in the loose floorboard Dobby had shown him. And each night, different elves visited, healing any injuries and keeping his spirits up. More elves joined the cause. 20 now, then 30. Word spread through the hidden network of house elf communication. The boy who lived was suffering, and the elves were taking action. We still need a better plan, Dobby told the core group at their third meeting. These small tricks only make the muggles angrier. What about the wizard authorities, suggested Nimmy, an elderly elf who served an Auror family. Surely they would intervene if they knew. Dobby tried, he said frustrated. Dobby left a note where Dobby's master would see it. He laughed and threw it away. Said Harry Potter was safely hidden away by Dumbledore's orders. What about Hogwarts? Tinky asked. The elves there might know more. Dobby brightened. Dobby will go tonight. The Hogwarts elves are freer than most. They might help us. Hogwarts Castle stood magnificent against the night sky as Dobby appeared at its gates. He'd never been here before, but every house elf knew how to find the school. He snapped his fingers, feeling for the magical signature of the kitchen elves. With a pop, he appeared in an enormous kitchen bustling with activity despite the late hour. 100 pairs of eyes turned to stare at him. Who is you? Asked an ancient-looking elf wearing a tea towel emblazoned with the Hogwarts crest. Dobby's name is Dobby, he said nervously. Dobby needs help for Harry Potter. The name sent a ripple of whispers through the kitchen. The old elf stepped forward. I is Pipsy, head kitchen elf, she said. What trouble has Harry Potter? Dobby took a deep breath and told them everything, the cupboard, the starvation, the beatings, the growing network of elves trying to help. When he finished, the kitchen was silent. We knows about Harry Potter, Pipsy said finally. Professor Dumbledore says he must stay with his muggle family for protection. Blood magic. Protection from who? Dobby demanded. The dark wizards? Or the muggles who hurt him? Harry Potter needs protection from his own family. It's not our place to question, another elf began. It is. Dobby interrupted. If wizards won't protect their children, who will? We protected wizard children during the goblin rebellions. During the witch hunts. It's in our oldest magic. Pipsy studied him for a long moment. What does Dobby suggest? Dobby doesn't know yet, he admitted. But Dobby knows we must do more. The muggles hit Harry Potter with a belt. A belt. He's only 3. Murmurs of outrage rippled through the kitchen now. Hogwarts elves were treated better than most, and they had a special fondness for the children they served. "Show us," Pipsy commanded. Dobby hesitated, then placed his fingers on her forehead, sharing the memory of Harry's welted legs, his tear-stained face. Pipsy's ancient face hardened. "We cannot remove Harry Potter from his family," she said. "The blood wards protect him from greater dangers. But..." She looked around at the other elves, "we can make sure the muggles never harm him again." "How?" Pipsy's smile was not pleasant. "We as Hogwarts elves. We has watched over the most powerful wizards for centuries. We knows things." She turned to the assembled elves. "Who will join the protection of Harry Potter?" Every hand in the kitchen shot up. Dobby felt something unfamiliar bloom in his chest. Hope. The next day, Dobby appeared in Harry's cupboard earlier than usual, while the Dursleys were still awake. "Dobby," Harry whispered excitedly. "You came early." "Dobby has news," he said. "Good news. Many more elves are going to help Harry Potter now." Harry's eyes widened. "More like you." "How many?" "Hundreds," Dobby said proudly. "From all over Britain. But Harry Potter must be brave for one more night. Tomorrow, everything changes." "What's going to happen?" Harry asked. "Justice," Dobby said simply. "Does Harry Potter trust Dobby?" Harry nodded without hesitation. "You're my best friend, Dobby." Those words, so simple, so heartfelt, nearly undid the elf. No one had ever called Dobby a friend before, let alone a best friend. "And Dobby is honored to be Harry Potter's friend," he said, voice thick. "Tomorrow night, when Harry Potter's relatives are asleep, be ready. Pack anything important in this." He handed Harry a small bag. "It's magical. It will hold everything Harry Potter wants to keep." "Are we going somewhere?" Harry asked, clutching the bag. "Maybe," Dobby said. "But no matter what happens, Harry Potter will never be hurt by these muggles again. Dobby promises." At midnight the following night, house elves began appearing in the gardens of Privet Drive. They came silently, in pairs and trios, until over 200 had gathered, forming a circle around number 4. Dobby stood at the front door, Pipsy at his side. 20 of the oldest, most powerful elves formed an inner circle. The rest spread out, creating a perimeter that would keep muggles from noticing anything unusual. "Is everyone ready?" Dobby asked. Pipsy nodded grimly. "The protective spells are in place. No one will see or hear anything from outside." "And the wizarding authorities?" "The Hogwarts elves have created a magical barrier that will hide our magic from detection," Pipsy confirmed. "We has until dawn." Dobby squared his shoulders. "For Harry Potter," he said. "For Harry Potter," 200 voices echoed softly. Dobby raised his hand and snapped his fingers. The front door swung open. The war for Harry Potter had begun. Inside the house, Vernon Dursley shot up in bed as lights suddenly blazed throughout the house. "What the devil?" he growled, stomping out into the hallway. He froze at the top of the stairs. Standing in his entryway was a creature unlike anything he'd ever seen, small, with huge ears and tennis ball eyes that glowed with fury. "Vernon Dursley," Dobby said, his voice magically amplified. "Your judgment has come." Vernon's face purpled. "What are you?" "Get out of my house, you freak." "That word," Dobby said softly. "That is what you call your nephew. A child under your protection." "The boy?" Vernon spluttered. "This is about the boy. Listen here, whatever you are, that little brat is none of your business." Petunia appeared behind him, her horse-like face white with fear. "Vernon, what's happening?" "I don't know, but I'm putting a stop to it right now." Vernon charged down the stairs, grabbing an umbrella from the stand as a makeshift weapon. He never reached Dobby. With a casual gesture from Pipsy, Vernon froze mid-step, hovering a foot above the ground. What is this?" he gasped, struggling against invisible bonds. "Put me down." "No," Dobby said simply. "Not until you understand what you have done." More elves filed into the house, surrounding the floating Vernon and the trembling Petunia, who remained frozen at the top of the stairs. "What do you want?" Petunia whispered. "Justice," Dobby replied. "And safety for Harry Potter." At the mention of Harry's name, Petunia's expression hardened. "If you've come for the boy, take him. We never wanted him. He was dumped on our doorstep with nothing but a letter from who?" Pipsy interrupted sharply. "Some crackpot named Dumbledore," Vernon spat, still struggling. "Said we had to take him in." "Well, we did, didn't we?" "Fed him, clothed him, starved him," Dobby corrected coldly. "Beat him. Locked him in a cupboard." "Now see here," Vernon began. Dobby snapped his fingers. The cupboard door flew open, revealing Harry huddled inside, clutching the magical bag Dobby had given him. "Come out, Harry Potter," Dobby said gently. "You're safe now." Harry emerged cautiously, eyes widening at the scene before him. "Dobby? What's happening?" "Justice," Dobby repeated, holding out his hand. "These are Dobby's friends. They're here to help." Harry took the elf's hand, staring around in amazement at the dozens of house elves now filling the living room and hallway. Vernon's face went from purple to white as he saw how many creatures had invaded his home. "What are you?" he whispered. "We is house elves," Pipsy said, stepping forward. "Magical beings who serve wizard families. Who protect wizard children. And Harry Potter," Dobby added, "is the most important wizard child of all. I told you there's no such thing as magic." Vernon bellowed, finding his courage again. "This is some kind of trick. Some freakish technology. Is this a trick?" Dobby asked softly. He snapped his fingers. Vernon's umbrella transformed into a large, wriggling snake. With a scream, Vernon dropped it, and the snake slithered away, transforming back into an umbrella as it disappeared into the kitchen. Petunia moaned with fear, sinking to her knees at the top of the stairs. "You hurt Harry Potter," Dobby continued, his voice dangerously calm. "You starved him. You beat him. You called him freak. He is a freak," Vernon shouted. "Just like his parents. Just like all of you." Dobby's eyes narrowed. "Wrong answer." He raised his hand, but Harry tugged on his pillowcase. "Dobby, wait," he said quietly. "What are you going to do to them?" Dobby looked down at the child, so small, so thin, yet worried about the very people who had abused him. In that moment, Dobby understood why Harry Potter was special beyond any prophecy or lightning scar. "Nothing permanent," he assured Harry. "But they must learn. All muggles must learn what happens when they harm a magical child." Harry nodded slowly. "Okay. But don't hurt them too bad." Dobby turned back to Vernon, who was still floating, his face now ashen. "Harry Potter shows you mercy," he said. "More than you deserve." He snapped his fingers again. Vernon dropped to the floor in a heap. "This is your judgment," Dobby announced. "From this night forward, you will feel what Harry Potter feels. When he is hungry, you will be hungry. When he is cold, you will be cold. When he is in pain." Dobby smiled coldly, "You will know pain. You can't do this." Vernon scrambled to his feet. "I'll call the police. The army." "Call who you wish," Pipsy said, unimpressed. "They will not see us. They will not believe you. And if you try to send Harry Potter away," Dobby added, "or tell anyone about us, the spell will become permanent. Forever." A loud wail came from upstairs. Dudley had finally woken up and was standing at his bedroom door, blubbering at the sight below. "Mummy! Daddy! There are monsters!" Petunia rushed to her son, pulling him close. "Don't hurt Dudley," she begged. "He's just a child." "So is Harry Potter," Dobby said pointedly. "But Dobby will not harm an innocent child, even one as spoiled as that one." He turned to Harry, who was watching everything with wide eyes. "Harry Potter has a choice now," Dobby said gently. "Harry Potter can stay here, and we will make sure the Dursleys never hurt him again. Or Harry Potter can come with us to a safer place." Harry looked at the Dursleys, Vernon sprawled on the floor, Petunia clutching Dudley, then back at Dobby and the army of house elves. "Where would I go?" he asked. "Hogwarts," Pipsy answered. "The school for wizards. You is too young to be a student, but the elves there would care for you until you is old enough." "Would I see you there, Dobby?" Harry asked. Dobby hesitated. Dobby would visit. Dobby cannot stay at Hogwarts because Dobby belongs to the Malfoy family. But Dobby would visit often. Harry bit his lip, thinking hard. Then he looked at the Dursleys again. "I want to stay," he said finally. A murmur of surprise ran through the assembled elves. Even Dobby looked shocked. "Stay. But Harry Potter, they hurt you." "Not anymore, right?" Harry said. "You said they'd feel what I feel now. So they won't hurt me because it would hurt them too." Dobby stared at the child in wonder. "That is true, but—" "And I need to stay for the blood protection," Harry continued. "The Hogwarts elf, Pipsy, she said there are worse dangers." "I heard you talking." Vernon struggled to his feet. "Now see here, boy, quiet." Dobby snapped, and Vernon's voice cut off abruptly. "Harry Potter is speaking." Harry squared his tiny shoulders. "I'll stay. But I want a real bedroom. And real food. And no more chores that are too big for me." "You'll get nothing, you little," Vernon began, but clutched his throat as the words died. "The spell begins," Pipsy said with satisfaction. "He feels the hunger that Harry Potter has felt." Vernon doubled over, gasping, his hands on his stomach. "Vernon!" Petunia cried, rushing to her husband's side. "He is not injured," Dobby assured her. "He is only hungry. Very hungry. As Harry Potter has been for most of his life." Petunia looked from Vernon to Harry, something like understanding dawning in her pinched face. "What do we have to do?" she asked quietly. "To make it stop." "Feed Harry Potter," Dobby said simply. "Clothe him properly. Give him a bedroom. Treat him as you treat your own son." "That's all?" she asked suspiciously. "That's all," Dobby confirmed. "But know this, we will be watching. Always. Every house elf in Britain knows the name Harry Potter now. If he calls for help, we will come. If he suffers, you will suffer more." He turned to Harry and knelt to the child's level. "Is Harry Potter sure? Dobby can take Harry Potter away from here right now." Harry nodded. "I'm sure. I think I'm supposed to be here. But it'll be different now." He looked at the Dursleys with more confidence than any 3-year-old should possess. "It'll be different because I have friends now." Dobby felt his chest swell with pride. "The bravest wizard Dobby has ever known," he said. He stood and addressed the Dursleys once more. "You have been given a second chance. Do not waste it." With that, he turned to the assembled elves. "Our work here is done for tonight. But our watch begins." As one, the house elves raised their hands and vanished with a thunderous crack, leaving behind only Dobby. "Dobby will visit tomorrow night," he promised Harry. "To make sure the Dursleys keep their word." Harry threw his arms around the elf's skinny neck. "Thank you, Dobby." With one last glare at the Dursleys, Dobby vanished. Vernon collapsed into a chair, still clutching his stomach. "What just happened?" he moaned. Petunia stared at the spot where the elves had been, then at Harry, seeing him, truly seeing him, for perhaps the first time. "I think," she said slowly, "we've been very wrong about some things." Harry Potter, 3 years old but no longer afraid, picked up his little bag of belongings. "I'd like Dudley's second bedroom," he said calmly. "And I'm very hungry." Chapter 2, The Council of Elves. Life at Number 4, Privet Drive changed overnight. Harry Potter woke up in Dudley's second bedroom for the first time in his life. Actual sunlight streamed through actual windows. He lay on an actual bed, not a threadbare mattress under the stairs. The room still contained Dudley's broken toys, casualties of tantrums past, but Harry didn't care. He had space. He had light. He pinched himself, just to be sure. "Boy! Harry!" Aunt Petunia's voice called from downstairs. The hesitation before his name felt strange after years of only being boy or freak. Harry hurried downstairs, expecting to be told to start cooking breakfast. Instead, he found Aunt Petunia already at the stove, frying bacon. Uncle Vernon sat at the table, his face a mix of fear and resentment. "Sit down," Aunt Petunia said stiffly. "You need to eat a proper breakfast." Harry climbed onto a chair, hardly daring to breathe. Was this some kind of trick? A plate appeared before him, eggs, bacon, toast, and orange juice. More food than he'd ever been given at once. "Eat," Uncle Vernon growled, then clutched his stomach with a groan. Harry took a tentative bite of toast. As he chewed, Uncle Vernon's pained expression eased slightly. "All of it," Aunt Petunia instructed. "The connection seems to work better if you finish your meals." Harry understood. Uncle Vernon felt his hunger, so Uncle Vernon wanted him fed. It wasn't kindness, it was self-preservation. He'd take it. Dudley stomped into the kitchen, took one look at Harry sitting at the table with a full plate, and threw himself to the floor. "Why does he get bacon? I want his bacon. It's not fair." Harry tensed, waiting for the usual pattern. Dudley throws a tantrum, Harry gets punished, Dudley gets what he wants. "Dudders, please," Aunt Petunia said nervously. "There's plenty of bacon for everyone." "I don't want my bacon. I want his bacon." Uncle Vernon slammed his fist on the table. "Enough." Everyone froze. Uncle Vernon never yelled at Dudley. "Your mother said there's plenty of bacon," he said through gritted teeth. "So eat your own bloody bacon and be quiet." Dudley's mouth fell open. Tears welled in his eyes. "But Daddy," "No buts." Vernon snapped. "Those things could be watching us right now. Do you want them coming back?" Dudley's eyes darted around the kitchen fearfully. "No," he whispered. "Then sit down and eat your breakfast like a normal child." Dudley climbed into his chair, shooting venomous glares at Harry between bites. Harry hid his smile behind his orange juice. Maybe having an army of house elves on his side wasn't so bad after all. From the corner of the kitchen, invisible to human eyes, Tinky watched with satisfaction. "They is feeding him properly," she reported later that day, appearing in the Hogwarts kitchens where Dobby waited anxiously. "And the bedroom?" Dobby asked. "Small but proper," Tinky confirmed. "The fat Muggle boy had many broken toys in there. Harry Potter doesn't seem to mind." Dobby nodded, relief washing over him. The spell was working. For the first time since he'd discovered Harry in that cupboard, the knot of worry in his chest loosened slightly. "Who is watching now?" he asked. "Whimsy and Potty," Tinky said. "From the Bones family. They volunteered for the morning shift." Dobby marveled at how quickly their operation had grown. Over 300 house elves had now joined what they were calling Harry Potter's Guard, organizing themselves into shifts to keep constant watch over the boy who lived. "And no one has noticed the elves coming and going?" Dobby asked. No one, Tinky assured him. Pipsy's concealment charms are very strong. The Ministry's detection spells don't see house elf magic unless they is looking specifically for it. Dobby nodded. That was another stroke of luck. Wizards rarely bothered monitoring house elf magic, considering it beneath their notice. Dobby must return to Malfoy Manor soon, he said reluctantly. Master Lucius will be expecting his breakfast. Go, Tinky said kindly. Dobby has done more than enough. We will keep watch until your return. Dobby hesitated. Dobby would like to check on Harry Potter first. Just for a moment. Tinky smiled knowingly. Harry Potter is getting ready for school. The horse-faced muggle woman is taking him and her son today. School. Dobby perked up. This was unexpected progress. Muggle school, Tinky clarified. For small children. The fat boy already attends. Dobby will see for himself, he decided. With a soft pop, he vanished. Harry stood nervously at the bathroom sink, trying to flatten his unruly hair with water. It won't stay down, he told his reflection. It never does. Harry Potter's hair is perfect just the way it is. Harry spun around, a grin spreading across his face. Dobby. The house elf stood on the edge of the bathtub, beaming. Dobby had to see for himself. Harry Potter is going to school today. Harry nodded excitedly. Aunt Petunia said I have to go now. She kept me home before because she said I wasn't ready, but now I can go with Dudley. Harry Potter will learn many things, Dobby said proudly. Harry Potter is a very smart wizard. I can't tell anyone I'm a wizard, right? Harry whispered. That's got to be a secret. Yes, Dobby agreed. Muggles must not know about magic. But Harry Potter can learn Muggle things too. Reading and numbers will help Harry Potter when he goes to Hogwarts. When will that be? When Harry Potter turns 11, Dobby explained. All magical children in Britain go to Hogwarts at 11. That's forever, Harry sighed. I'm only 3. Almost 4, Dobby corrected. And time passes quickly. Dobby must go now, but other elves are watching. If Harry Potter needs anything, just whisper Dobby's name 3 times, and Dobby will come. Promise? Dobby promises. With a soft pop, the elf disappeared, leaving Harry alone with his unruly hair and newfound hope. Life settled into a strange new rhythm at Privet Drive. The Dursleys never spoke directly about the night of the house elves' intervention. Instead, they created a careful fiction that they had simply decided Harry was old enough for school and his own bedroom. If the neighbors noticed the overnight change in Harry's status, new clothes, regular meals, inclusion in family outings, no one commented. Harry thrived under the new arrangement. With proper nutrition, his thin frame began filling out. With proper rest in a real bed, the dark circles under his eyes faded. With proper clothes instead of Dudley's enormous cast-offs, he could run and play like a normal child. He was still smaller than his classmates, still quieter, still watchful in the way of children who've learned early that adults can't be trusted. But he smiled more. He even laughed sometimes. The Dursleys themselves changed too, though not in their hearts. Vernon still glared at Harry when he thought no one was watching. Petunia still pressed her lips into a thin line whenever Harry did something that reminded her of her sister. Dudley still tried to bully Harry when he thought he could get away with it. But they couldn't act on their feelings anymore. Not without consequences. The first time Vernon raised his hand to Harry, after the boy accidentally tracked mud on the clean kitchen floor, a searing pain shot through his own arm, as if he'd thrust it into a fire. He'd yelped and staggered back, clutching his wrist, while Harry watched wide-eyed. It wasn't me, Harry had whispered. I didn't do magic. It's those bloody creatures, Vernon hissed. They're still watching. Indeed they were. Every moment of every day, invisible house elves kept vigil over number 4, Privet Drive. They didn't interfere with normal family dynamics, but they ensured the Dursleys adhered to the terms of their judgment. Harry must be properly fed. Harry must be properly clothed. Harry must be properly housed. Harry must not be abused in any way. Beyond that, the elves got creative. "I say we turn all his socks purple," suggested Nippy, a young elf serving the Abbott family. "Too obvious," countered Gory. "The big muggle would know it was magic." "What about making his car keys always appear in a different place than where he left them?" The elves were gathered in the Hogwarts kitchens for their weekly meeting, what they'd begun calling the Council. What had started as emergency sessions about Harry's welfare had evolved into regular strategy meetings, social gatherings, and increasingly, political discussions. "The car keys is good," agreed Dobby. "But Dobby thinks we should also make the toilet flush at random times during the night. The big muggle hates having his sleep disturbed." Laughter rippled through the gathered elves. Over 70 had squeezed into the kitchens tonight, with hundreds more listening through a magical connection the Hogwarts elves had created. "Any serious problems to report?" asked Pipsy, who had naturally taken on a leadership role alongside Dobby. "The fat boy tried to hit Harry Potter again yesterday," reported Miffy, who'd been on afternoon watch. Dobby's spell worked perfectly. The moment his fist connected with Harry Potter's arm, the fat boy felt the pain and started crying. "Good," Dobby said with satisfaction. "The boy must learn too." "What about the wizard watchers?" Pipsy asked. "Any changes?" This was another discovery they'd made. Wizards occasionally monitored the house from a distance. An old squib woman named Fig who lived nearby. Sometimes others, in wizard robes poorly disguised as muggle clothing. "The old woman with cats watched Harry Potter walk home from school again," said Binky, who'd been trailing Harry invisibly. "She followed at a distance, then went to her fireplace and talked to someone." Binky couldn't get close enough to hear. "Reporting to Dumbledore, no doubt," Pipsy said thoughtfully. "But they is only watching from a distance. Not seeing what happens inside the house." "That's what Dobby doesn't understand," Dobby said, frowning. "If Dumbledore cares enough to have Harry Potter watched, why didn't he check how the muggles were treating him?" A thoughtful silence fell over the gathering. "Perhaps," ventured an elderly elf named Nagy, "he did not want to know." More silence as the elves contemplated this disturbing possibility. "Or perhaps," suggested Tinky, "he did know, but thought it was necessary somehow." "Necessary?" Dobby's voice rose incredulously. "How could starving a child be necessary?" Tinky shrunk back. "Dobby is right." Tinky spoke foolishly. "No," Pipsy said slowly. "Tinky might be onto something. The blood wards that protect Harry Potter, they require him to call that place home. Perhaps Dumbledore feared that if he interfered too much with the Muggles' authority, they might send Harry Potter away, breaking the protection. So he sacrificed Harry Potter's childhood for the blood protection?" Dobby asked, his large ears trembling with emotion. "Wizards often make such calculations," Pipsy said grimly. "They weigh one suffering against another and choose what they believe is the lesser evil. That's why house elves must act," Dobby declared. "We see what wizards overlook. We hear what they ignore. We serve in the shadows, but that gives us power they don't expect." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the gathering. "Speaking of power," Pipsy said, "there is something else we must discuss." She hesitated, then plunged ahead. "Many elves are asking, what this means for us. For all house elves." "What does Pipsy mean?" Dobby asked, though he suspected he knew. "We has organized," Pipsy said simply. "Hundreds of us, across family lines. We has kept secrets from our masters. Made independent decisions. Used our magic in ways not directly ordered." She looked around the room. "Some would call this rebellion." The word hung in the air, dangerous and thrilling. "Not rebellion," Dobby said quickly. "Protection. We is doing what house elves has always done, protecting magical children when wizards cannot or will not. But we is doing it together, Gory pointed out. As equals. Making our own choices. And it feels. Tinky hesitated, searching for the word, right. Silence fell again as the elves contemplated the implications. For centuries, house elves had served wizard families individually, bound by ancient magic to obey their masters. The idea of collective action, of elves from different families working together toward a common goal, this was revolutionary. What does this mean for our future? Asked a timid elf near the back. Dobby doesn't know, Dobby admitted. But Dobby knows this. Together, we has already changed Harry Potter's life for the better. What else might we change, if we continue to work together? The question lingered as the meeting shifted to practical matters, scheduling the next week's watches, reporting on Harry's progress at school, planning the next round of subtle torments for the Dursleys. But something had fundamentally shifted in the kitchen that night. A new awareness had dawned. A new possibility had emerged. The house elves of Britain were beginning to think of themselves not just as individual servants, but as a community with shared interests and collective power. And it all centered around one small boy with a lightning scar. 2 weeks later, disaster struck. Harry had been thriving under the new arrangement. His teachers noted his improved concentration, his eager participation in class, his quick mind now that he was properly fed and rested. He'd even made a tentative friendship with a quiet girl named Sarah who shared his love of picture books. Then Dudley and his friends decided enough was enough. You think you're so special now, Dudley taunted as he cornered Harry on the playground. With your new clothes and your own room. Leave me alone, Dudley, Harry said, backing away. His cousin had mostly avoided him since the night, as Harry thought of it. The spell that made Dudley feel any pain he inflicted on Harry had been a powerful deterrent. But today, Dudley had backup, his friends Malcolm and Dennis, bigger boys who didn't know about house elves or magic or consequences. Make us, Malcolm sneered, shoving Harry hard. Harry stumbled backward, hitting the wall. He glanced around desperately for a teacher, but the playground monitor had stepped away to break up another fight. Remember what happened last time, Harry warned Dudley. You felt it too. Dudley hesitated, but Dennis laughed. What's he talking about, Big D? Nothing, Dudley said quickly. He's mental. Always has been. I think he needs a lesson, Malcolm said, advancing on Harry. Hold his arms. Dennis grabbed Harry from behind, pinning his arms as Malcolm drew back his fist. Dobby, Harry whispered desperately. Dobby, Dobby. Malcolm's fist connected with Harry's stomach, driving the air from his lungs. Simultaneously, Dudley doubled over, clutching his own stomach and moaning. What the? Dennis loosened his grip in surprise. Before Malcolm could throw another punch, a powerful gust of wind, seemingly from nowhere, knocked all three bullies off their feet. The playground equipment began to rattle. The swings moved on their own, though there was no breeze. The slide grew scalding hot, then icy cold. Teachers came running as children began screaming about the suddenly haunted playground. In the chaos, no one noticed the small, battered creature that appeared briefly beside Harry, checking him for injuries before vanishing again. No one, that is, except for a tall, silver-bearded wizard watching from across the street, his half-moon spectacles glinting in the midday sun. He was there. Dobby reported urgently to the hastily assembled council that evening. Dumbledore himself was watching the school. Murmurs of alarm spread through the gathered elves. Did he see Dobby? Pipsy asked sharply. Dobby doesn't think so, Dobby said. Dobby was only visible for a moment. But he was definitely watching. This changes things, Gory said nervously. If Dumbledore suspects house elves are interfering. He would have acted already if he knew for certain, Pipsy reasoned. But he must suspect something. The question is, what will he do? We should increase the watches, suggested Tinky. 2 elves at all times, not just one. And add protective enchantments around the Dursley house, added Binky. To alert us if any wizard approaches. Dobby nodded agreement. Dobby will take tonight's watch personally. No, Pipsy said firmly. Dobby is too important to the cause now. If Dumbledore is watching, he might recognize Dobby from Malfoy Manor. But, Pipsy is right, Tinky said. Other elves can watch tonight. Dobby must be careful. Dobby's ears drooped, but he nodded reluctantly. Dobby will organize the schedule instead. As the meeting continued, none of the elves noticed a small, mechanical device hanging in the corner of the kitchen, a silver instrument that whirred softly, recording everything. In his office at Hogwarts, Albus Dumbledore sat at his desk, listening to the echoing voices of house elves planning what could only be described as a coordinated rebellion. Extraordinary, he murmured, stroking his long silver beard. Simply extraordinary. What is it, Albus? Asked Minerva McGonagall, who had been summoned to his office moments before. Has something happened to the Potter boy? In a manner of speaking, Dumbledore said, his blue eyes twinkling behind his half-moon spectacles. It seems young Harry has acquired some rather unexpected protectors. He gestured to the silver instrument on his desk, which was now projecting ghostly images of dozens of house elves in intense discussion. McGonagall peered at the images in confusion. House elves. What do they have to do with Potter? Everything, apparently, Dumbledore said. They've been watching over him for months. Ensuring the Dursleys treat him properly. Even punishing them when they don't. McGonagall's eyebrows shot up. House elves. Taking independent action against Muggles. She paused, processing this. Wait, does this mean the Dursleys weren't treating him properly? I told you they were the worst sort of Muggles, Albus. So you did, Minerva, Dumbledore sighed. It seems the situation was worse than I anticipated. Then why aren't you putting a stop to this elf interference, she demanded. Or better yet, removing Potter from that household altogether. Because, my dear Professor, Dumbledore said, leaning back in his chair, I'm not entirely sure that would be in Harry's best interest. Or, indeed, in the best interest of house elves everywhere. McGonagall stared at him, baffled. I don't understand. The blood protection at Privet Drive remains Harry's strongest defense against Voldemort's remaining followers, Dumbledore explained. But it requires him to call that place home, at least until he comes of age. I had hoped the Dursleys would grow to care for him as their own, but... He gestured to the images of the elves. It seems they required more persuasion than I could provide. So you're just going to let this house elf rebellion continue? I prefer to think of it as an unexpected alliance, Dumbledore said mildly. And yes, for the moment, I believe I will. The elves have accomplished what I could not, they've forced the Dursleys to treat Harry properly without removing him from the protection of his mother's blood sacrifice. McGonagall studied him suspiciously. There's more to it than that. You're plotting something. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. I'm merely observing a fascinating development, Minerva. House elves from different families, working together for a common cause, making independent decisions, it's unprecedented in modern times. And potentially dangerous, McGonagall pointed out. If word gets out that house elves are capable of organizing like this, indeed, Dumbledore nodded. Which is why this must remain between us for now. I've disabled the Ministry's monitoring spells around Privet Drive. As far as they're concerned, all is well with the boy who lived. McGonagall shook her head, exasperated. Albus, you're playing a dangerous game. What if the elves decide they don't need wizards at all? A question well worth considering, Dumbledore agreed. But for now, I believe their focus remains solely on Harry's welfare. And that, I find, aligns perfectly with my own priorities. He waved his wand, and the silver instrument stopped projecting. Keep this to yourself, Minerva. And perhaps keep an eye on our kitchen elves. I suspect they're more involved in this than they appear. As McGonagall left his office, Dumbledore turned to the window, gazing out at the stars. "Well played, Harry," he murmured. "Not yet 4 years old, and already changing our world in ways no one could have predicted." Harry sat cross-legged on his bed, carefully sorting through a box of toy soldiers Dudley had broken months ago. "I think I can fix this one," he told Dobby, who sat opposite him. "The arm just needs to be glued back on." Dobby could mend it with magic, the elf offered. Harry shook his head. "I want to try myself first." He paused, fiddling with the broken toy. "Dobby, why did you help me? When we first met?" Dobby's ears perked up in surprise. "Because Harry Potter needed help. But there must be lots of kids who need help. What made me special?" Dobby considered this. "Harry Potter defeated the Dark Lord as a baby. Saved many lives, including house elves." That made Dobby curious about Harry Potter. "But you didn't stay because I'm famous," Harry pressed. "You stayed because you liked me, right?" "Of course Dobby likes Harry Potter," Dobby exclaimed. "Harry Potter is kind and brave and never treats Dobby like a servant." Harry smiled. "You're my best friend, you know. Even better than Sarah at school, because I can tell you everything." Dobby felt that now familiar warmth in his chest, a feeling he'd come to recognize as pride, affection, and something deeper he couldn't quite name. "Harry Potter is Dobby's best friend too," he said solemnly. Dobby never had a friend before. Never. But what about the other elves? House elves serve together, but... Dobby paused, trying to articulate something he'd never considered before. "We don't choose each other. We are placed together by our master's choices. But now you're choosing," Harry pointed out. "All of you. You chose to help me. You chose to work together." Dobby's eyes widened as the truth of this sank in. "Yes," he said slowly. "We is choosing now. And that's good, right?" Harry asked, looking up from his broken soldier. "It is different," Dobby said carefully. "House elves have served wizards for centuries without choosing. Some elves find it frightening to choose. But you don't," Harry said confidently. "You like choosing." Dobby nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "Dobby does like choosing. And Dobby chooses Harry Potter." A soft knock at the bedroom door made them both jump. Harry quickly motioned for Dobby to hide. "Come in," he called once the elf had disappeared with a soft pop. To Harry's surprise, Aunt Petunia entered, carrying a small paper bag. She looked uncomfortable, her lips pressed in their usual thin line, but there was something different in her expression as she glanced around the room. "I've brought you something," she said stiffly, holding out the bag. Harry took it cautiously. Inside was a tube of glue. "I noticed you trying to fix those soldiers," she explained, not quite meeting his eyes. "That should work better than the paste you were using." "Thank you," Harry said, genuinely surprised. Petunia nodded curtly. "Dinner's in 10 minutes. Wash your hands before you come down." She turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Harry." "Yes, Aunt Petunia." "You look like her," she said quietly. "Your mother. Especially around the eyes." Before Harry could respond, she was gone, closing the door behind her. Harry stared at the glue in his hands, a strange feeling washing over him. It wasn't happiness exactly. But it wasn't sadness either. It was something new, a tiny crack in the wall of silence that had surrounded his parents since he'd come to Privet Drive. "Dobby," he whispered. The elf reappeared, looking thoughtful. "The horse-faced woman is changing," he observed. "Maybe," Harry said, unconvinced. "Or maybe she's just scared of you all." "Fear can lead to change," Dobby said wisely. "Dobby must go now. Other elves will watch tonight. Will you come to my birthday next week?" Harry asked hopefully. "I'll be 4. Dobby's eyes widened. Harry Potter's birthday. Dobby had forgotten. Dobby must prepare. With an excited squeak, he vanished, leaving Harry grinning at his enthusiasm. Word of Harry Potter's upcoming birthday spread like wildfire through the house elf network. Plans were made, schedules arranged, gifts created in secret moments between tasks for their wizard masters. The house elves had never celebrated a birthday before, not their own, certainly, as most didn't even know when they were born. But they threw themselves into preparations with characteristic thoroughness. Meanwhile, at Privet Drive, the Dursleys were having a heated discussion behind their bedroom door. "We can't just ignore it," Petunia hissed. "Those creatures will know. They always know." "I refuse to celebrate the boy's birthday," Vernon growled. "It's bad enough we have to feed him and clothe him like he's our own. I draw the line at parties." "Who said anything about a party?" Petunia snapped. "Just a small gift. A cake, perhaps. Enough to show them we're complying." "Complying," Vernon spat the word like it tasted bad. "That's what we've been reduced to. Complying with the demands of unnatural creatures who invaded our home. Would you rather go back to feeling what he feels?" Petunia asked sharply. "Remember how hungry you were that first day? How exhausted? I watched you, Vernon. You could barely function." Vernon's face darkened at the memory. "It's not right," he muttered, but with less conviction. "None of this is right." "Right or not, it's our reality now," Petunia said pragmatically. "So we'll get him a small gift, bake a cake, and be done with it." Dudley's second birthday party cost nearly £200. "I think we can spare 20 for the boy." Vernon grunted what might have been agreement. "Fine. But I'm not singing any bloody birthday songs." In the hallway, Dudley pressed his ear harder against his parents' door, struggling to make sense of the strange conversation. Creatures. Complying. What were his parents talking about? All he knew was that everything had changed after that night with the monsters. Harry had moved into his second bedroom. Harry got new clothes. Harry got regular meals. And worst of all, whenever Dudley tried to put Harry in his place, weird things happened. It wasn't fair. Nothing was fair anymore. As he crept back to his room, Dudley made a decision. If his parents wouldn't stand up to whatever was happening, he would have to take matters into his own hands. Harry Potter's birthday wasn't going to be happy if Dudley Dursley had anything to say about it. July 31st dawned bright and clear. Harry woke early, a bubble of excitement in his chest. His first real birthday. He couldn't remember celebrating his birthday before, only watching enviously as Dudley tore through mountains of gifts on his special day. He dressed carefully in his newest clothes, still second-hand, but at least they fit properly, and made his way downstairs. To his surprise, the kitchen table had been set with the good plates, and a small wrapped package sat at his usual spot. "Happy birthday," Aunt Petunia said stiffly as he entered. She pointed to the package. "That's for you." Harry approached cautiously, half expecting it to be some kind of trick. He unwrapped the paper slowly to reveal a new set of colored pencils and a sketch pad. "Thank you," he said, genuinely pleased. He'd shown talent for drawing at school, but had never had his own art supplies before. Uncle Vernon grunted from behind his newspaper. Dudley, surprisingly, was nowhere to be seen. "There'll be cake after dinner," Aunt Petunia added, turning back to the stove. "Now eat your breakfast. You don't want to be late for summer day care." Harry ate quickly, excited to show Sarah his birthday present at day care. As he finished, Dudley finally stomped into the kitchen, looking grumpier than usual. "Where's my breakfast?" he demanded. "On the counter, Diddykins," Petunia said, gesturing to a waiting plate. "Hurry now, or you'll be late." Dudley glared at Harry as he took his seat. "What's that?" he asked, pointing to the art supplies. "Birthday present," Harry said, trying not to sound too happy about it. "Birthday? Dudley's eyes narrowed. Nobody told me it was your birthday. It's not important, Harry shrugged, recognizing the dangerous glint in his cousin's eye. Just a normal day, really. Right, Dudley said, a calculating look on his pudgy face. Just a normal day. Harry felt a flicker of unease. Dudley was planning something. But with the house elves watching, how much trouble could he really cause? Happy birthday, Harry Potter. Harry gaped as he stepped into his bedroom that evening. At least 20 house elves stood crowded together, beaming at him. Colorful streamers hung from the ceiling. A pile of small, carefully wrapped packages sat on his bed. And floating in the middle of the room was a magnificent cake decorated with a miniature Hogwarts castle made of icing. Wow, Harry breathed. This is amazing. Dobby stepped forward proudly. Harry Potter deserves a proper birthday celebration. But how did you all get in here? What if my aunt and uncle here? Special silencing charms, Pipsy explained from near the window. They will hear nothing from this room tonight. And we created a magical copy of Harry Potter to eat dinner and cake with the Muggles, added Tinky. Very convincing. The Muggles won't know the difference. Harry laughed, imagining a magical duplicate of himself downstairs, making awkward conversation with the Dursleys. That's brilliant. The elves had thought of everything. They'd brought wizard party games, exploding snap, with the explosions muffled, Dob's tones, with cleanup charms ready, and even a miniature Quidditch set that flew around the room. The presents were simple but magical, a tiny glass ball that glowed different colors depending on Harry's mood, a self-erasing drawing board for practicing magic, a small plant that changed species every day, and dozens of wizard sweets Harry had never seen before. This one is from Dobby, said Dobby shyly, handing Harry a small package wrapped in pages from the Daily Prophet. Inside was a hand-knitted scarf in emerald green. To match Harry Potter's eyes, Dobby explained anxiously. Dobby made it himself. Dobby is still learning to knit, so it's not very good. It's perfect, Harry said firmly, wrapping it around his neck despite the summer heat. Thank you, Dobby. Thank you, everyone. This is the best birthday ever. For 3 magical hours, Harry celebrated with his secret friends. They told him stories about Hogwarts and the wizarding world. They taught him simple charms he could practice without a wand. They answered his endless questions about magic and his parents. James Potter was very good at transfiguration, recalled an elderly elf named Moggy, who had served at Hogwarts during Harry's father's school days. Could turn a teacup into a rat in his 2nd year already. And Lily Evans, Harry Potter's mother, was kind to house elves, added another. Always said thank you. Always remembered our names. Harry soaked up these details hungrily, storing away each precious scrap of information about the parents he couldn't remember. All too soon, it was time for the elves to leave. One by one, they said goodbye, vanishing with soft pops until only Dobby remained. Was it a good birthday? Dobby asked anxiously. The best, Harry assured him, stifling a yawn. The excitement and sugar had finally caught up with him. Will my copy still be downstairs? No, it has disappeared now, Dobby said. The Muggles think Harry Potter has gone to bed early, tired from birthday excitement. Clever, Harry grinned. He hesitated, then asked the question that had been bothering him all day. Dobby, Dudley was acting weird today. Like he was planning something. But nothing happened. Dobby's ears twitched. The fat boy did try something, he admitted. He put ants in Harry Potter's cake downstairs. Pinky caught him and replaced the cake before anyone ate it. Harry laughed. That sounds like Dudley. Thank you for stopping him. We will always protect Harry Potter, Dobby said solemnly. Then, more hesitantly, there is something else Dobby must tell Harry Potter. What is it? Wizard called Dumbledore knows about us, Dobby said. He was watching the school when those boys hurt Harry Potter. And he has been listening to our council meetings. Harry frowned. Is that bad? Will he make you stop helping me? Dobby doesn't think so, the elf said slowly. He has done nothing to stop us so far. Pipsy thinks. Pipsy thinks he approves, in his way. That's good, right? Maybe, Dobby said, looking troubled. But it means he knew how the Muggles were treating Harry Potter. And did nothing until we acted. Harry considered this. Adults are complicated, he said finally. Even magical ones, I guess. Yes, Dobby agreed. Very complicated. He brightened. But tonight is for happy thoughts only. Harry Potter is 4 years old today. And I have the best friends in the world, Harry added, giving Dobby a quick hug. Even if they have to be secret friends for now. After Dobby left, Harry carefully arranged his magical gifts in the loose floorboard under his bed, where the Dursleys would never find them. The scarf, though, he kept out, placing it carefully under his pillow. As he drifted off to sleep, Harry wondered what his parents would think of his unusual friendship with the house elves. Somehow, he felt sure they would approve. The summer passed in a blur of subtle changes at Privet Drive. The Dursleys' attitude toward Harry shifted from grudging tolerance to a stiff, formal politeness. Not affection, never that, but at least not open hostility. Petunia mentioned his mother more often, usually in short, clipped sentences that nevertheless gave Harry precious glimpses of his past. Vernon stopped complaining about the cost of keeping Harry, at least where the boy could hear. Even Dudley developed a wary respect for his cousin after several failed pranks backfired mysteriously. Through it all, the house elves kept watch, their network growing stronger and more organized by the day. Then came the letter. It arrived on a rainy Tuesday in late August, delivered by a stern-looking owl that tapped impatiently at the kitchen window during breakfast. Petunia nearly fainted at the sight of it. Vernon turned an alarming shade of purple. Dudley just stared in confusion. Harry, having been briefed by the elves about wizarding mail, was the only one who remained calm. "It's for me, isn't it?" he asked quietly. Petunia nodded mutely, opening the window with trembling hands. The owl hopped inside, shook its feathers indignantly, and extended a leg with a parchment envelope attached. Harry carefully untied it, noting the green ink and official-looking seal before the owl took off again, clearly not expecting a reply. "Well?" Vernon demanded. "What does it say?" Harry broke the seal and pulled out a short letter written in the same emerald green ink. "Dear Mr. Potter," he read aloud. "Your presence is requested at Gringotts Wizarding Bank on Thursday, August 29th at 10 o'clock regarding matters pertaining to your family estate. A representative will collect you from your residence. Please be ready promptly. Yours sincerely, Ragnarok, Senior Account Manager, Gringotts Bank." Silence fell in the kitchen. "Estate?" Vernon was the first to speak, his eyes narrowing. "What estate?" "I don't know," Harry said truthfully. "You're not going," Vernon declared. "I won't have more of those freaks in my house." As if on cue, the light bulb above the kitchen table shattered. Vernon flinched, then grimaced as a familiar cramping sensation gripped his stomach. "Fine," he growled. "But I'm coming with you." "The letter says a representative will collect me," Harry pointed out. "I don't think you're invited. I'm your legal guardian." Vernon blustered. "They can't exclude me from matters concerning a child under my care." Harry noticed his uncle didn't say, "my nephew," or use his name. Even now, Vernon couldn't bring himself to acknowledge their relationship directly. "We'll see on Thursday, I suppose," Harry said mildly, pocketing the letter. "May I be excused? I want to get ready for day care." He left the kitchen, heart pounding with excitement. As soon as he was alone in his room, he whispered urgently, "Dobby, Dobby, Dobby." The elf appeared instantly, looking concerned. "Is Harry Potter in trouble?" Dobby felt distress. "I got a letter," Harry explained, pulling it from his pocket. "From Gringotts. The Wizarding Bank, right? Why would they want to see me? I'm only 4. Dobby read the letter carefully, his enormous eyes widening. This is very unusual, he said. Wizard children don't normally visit their vaults until they start Hogwarts. I have a vault. With money? The Potters were an old wizarding family, Dobby explained. Very wealthy. Harry Potter would have inherited everything when his parents died. But who's been taking care of it all this time? And why contact me now? Dobby's ears twitched thoughtfully. Dobby doesn't know. But Dobby thinks. Dobby thinks this might be connected to what we've done. The house elf protection, you mean? Harry asked. Dobby nodded. The goblins who run Gringotts, they notice things. Changes in magic. Perhaps they sensed the house elf magic around Harry Potter and became curious. Or perhaps, came a new voice from the window, they were informed by someone who's been watching with great interest. Harry and Dobby whirled around. Perched on the windowsill was a magnificent phoenix, its scarlet and gold plumage glowing even in the dim morning light. And next to it stood a tall, thin figure with a long silver beard, twinkling blue eyes behind half-moon spectacles, and robes of deep purple adorned with silver stars. Professor Dumbledore. Dobby squeaked, instinctively moving to stand protectively in front of Harry. Indeed, the old wizard smiled benignly. And you must be Dobby, the architect of what I believe history will remember as the first House Elf Rebellion. His gaze shifted to Harry. And Harry Potter. We meet at last. The Council of Elves convened an emergency session that evening, the Hogwarts kitchens packed to overflowing with anxious house elves. He just appeared in Harry Potter's bedroom? Gory asked for the 3rd time. Through the window. With a phoenix, Dobby confirmed, still looking shaken by the encounter. He spoke with Harry Potter for nearly an hour. Very kind, very gentle. Answered many questions about Harry Potter's parents and Hogwarts. But what did he say about us? Pressed Tinky. About what we've done. Dobby's ears drooped slightly. He knows everything. Has known almost from the beginning. The listening device in the kitchen. That was his. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Is he angry? A voice called from the back. Will he punish us? No, Dobby said firmly. He said he approves. He called it a remarkable testament to the power of compassion. Pretty words, Pipsy said skeptically. But what does he intend to do? That's the strange part, Dobby said. He apologized to Harry Potter. Said he had placed him with the Muggles for protection, but had not checked closely enough on his welfare. Said he was grateful that we had corrected his mistake. Mistake? Gory echoed incredulously. Leaving a wizard child with abusive Muggles was a mistake. He said the blood protection was necessary, Dobby explained. But the mistreatment was not. He thought the Muggles would care for Harry Potter properly. Foolish wizard thinking, Pipsy muttered. Always assuming the best of the wrong people. What about the Gringotts letter? Tinky asked. Was that his doing? Dobby nodded. He spoke to the goblins after he discovered our intervention. Told them Harry Potter's guardianship situation needed review. The meeting Thursday is to establish a wizarding guardian to oversee Harry Potter's estate and magical education, alongside the Muggle guardianship of the Dursleys. Who will this guardian be? Asked an elf near the front. Dumbledore didn't say, Dobby admitted. But he assured Harry Potter it would be someone trustworthy who would work with us, not against us. And we're just supposed to believe that? Pipsy asked skeptically. After he left Harry Potter with those Muggles for 3 years. Dobby believes him, Dobby said simply. Dobby saw his eyes when he spoke to Harry Potter. He truly cares for the boy's welfare. Even if that's true, Gory pointed out, this changes everything. Once Harry Potter has a magical guardian, our role becomes complicated. Unnecessary, you mean, said a bitter voice from the crowd. No, Dobby said firmly. Not unnecessary. Different. We began this to protect Harry Potter from abusive muggles. That part may be accomplished now. But we've discovered something more important along the way. What's that? Several voices asked. Our own power, Dobby said simply. Our ability to act together, across family lines, for a cause we believe in. That doesn't end because Dumbledore knows, or because Harry Potter gets a magical guardian. Dobby is right, Pipsy said, stepping forward. What began as protection for one wizard child has become something more. A movement. A rebellion, Dumbledore called it, Dobby added. Dobby thinks maybe he's right. But what are we rebelling against? Asked a confused young elf. Not against, Pipsy corrected. For dignity. For choice. For the right to protect those who need protection, even when our masters don't order it. For friendship, Dobby added softly. Harry Potter called Dobby his friend. Not his servant. His friend. A thoughtful silence fell over the gathering as the implications sank in. So what happens now? Tinky finally asked. Now, said Dobby, we prepare for Thursday. Thursday morning dawned bright and clear. Harry was up before the sun, too excited to sleep. He'd laid out his best clothes, still second-hand, but clean and properly fitted. He'd attempted to comb his unruly hair, with predictably poor results. The Dursleys were tense at breakfast, speaking little. Vernon had insisted on accompanying Harry to the meeting, despite the letter's implication that he wasn't invited. Petunia had refused to come, claiming a headache, though Harry suspected she simply couldn't bear the thought of facing wizards after all these years of pretending magic didn't exist. They'll be here at 10, Vernon said gruffly, checking his watch for the 5th time in as many minutes. Whoever they are. I expect they'll be on time, Harry said mildly. He wasn't nervous, oddly enough. After meeting Professor Dumbledore, after befriending house elves, after everything that had happened in the past months, this just felt like the natural next step in his journey back to the world his parents had belonged to. At precisely 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Vernon jumped, then smoothed his mustache, straightened his tie, and marched to the door with all the dignity he could muster. Yes. Harry heard him say in a clipped tone. Good morning, replied a calm, slightly hoarse voice. I'm here to escort Harry Potter to Gringotts Bank. My name is Remus Lupin. Harry peeked around the corner, curious to see this new wizard. The man standing on the doorstep looked nothing like Professor Dumbledore. He was much younger, though his light brown hair was already flecked with grey. His clothes were shabby but neat, and he had a kind face marked with several scars. Harry, the man called Lupin said, spotting him in the hallway. There you are. You look so much like James, but you have Lily's eyes. You knew my parents? Harry asked eagerly, stepping forward. Very well, Lupin smiled, a sad, gentle smile. Your father was one of my best friends. Vernon cleared his throat loudly. Now see here. I'm the boy's legal guardian. If he's going to this bank, I'm coming too. Lupin turned to Vernon, his expression cooling. I'm afraid that won't be possible, Mr. Dursley. Gringotts is a wizarding establishment. Muggles can only enter with special dispensation, which was not granted in this case. Vernon's face purpled. Now you listen. No, Mr. Dursley, you listen, Lupin interrupted, his voice suddenly steely. I'm well aware of how you've treated Harry these past years. The only reason you're still his Muggle guardian is because of the blood protection through your wife. But make no mistake, things are changing today. Vernon took an involuntary step back, intimidated despite himself. Harry will return this afternoon, Lupin continued more pleasantly. We have much to discuss, and then I'll answer any questions you may have. Shall we say around 4 o'clock? Without waiting for a response, he held out his hand to Harry. Ready? Harry nodded eagerly, taking the outstretched hand. More than ready. As they walked down Privet Drive together, Harry glanced up at his new companion. How are we getting to the bank, Mr. Lupin? Please, call me Remus, the man smiled. And we'll be using something called apparition. It's like teleportation, I suppose Muggles would say. It feels a bit strange the first time, so hold on tight. Harry gripped Remus's hand firmly. I've sort of done something like this before, with the house elves. Remus raised an eyebrow. Have you indeed? You'll have to tell me all about your house elf friends. It's quite the story, from what Dumbledore tells me. Are you going to be my wizard guardian? Harry asked directly. Remus looked surprised, then chuckled. Straight to the point, just like your mother. We'll discuss all that at Gringotts. For now, hold tight and close your eyes. Harry did as instructed. There was a squeezing sensation, as if he were being pressed through a very tight tube, and then, welcome to Diagon Alley, Harry, Remus said. Harry opened his eyes and gasped. They stood on a cobblestone street lined with the most extraordinary shops he'd ever seen. Cauldrons stacked outside one store. Owls hooting in cages before another. Broomsticks displayed in windows. And at the far end, a magnificent white marble building that could only be Gringotts Bank. It's amazing, Harry breathed. This is just the beginning, Remus promised, leading him through the crowded street. There's a whole world waiting for you, Harry. And today, we start bringing you home to it. As they climbed the steps to the bank, Harry glanced back. For just a moment, he thought he spotted a familiar pair of large ears and tennis ball eyes watching from an alleyway. He smiled. The house elves were still watching over him, even here. And somehow, Harry knew they always would be. Chapter 3, The Battle of Privet Drive. Harry returned to Privet Drive that evening with his head spinning. Gringotts had been unlike anything he'd ever imagined, towering marble columns, fierce goblin tellers, and massive vaults deep underground accessed by a cart ride that felt like the world's most terrifying roller coaster. But it wasn't the bank's architecture or even the mountains of gold coins in his family vault that had left him speechless. It was the revelations about who he was, who his parents had been, and what his future might hold. Remember, Remus said gently as they stood on the Dursleys' doorstep, this changes things, but not everything. The blood protection remains important. You still need to call this place home, at least until you start Hogwarts. Harry nodded, clutching the small wooden box Remus had given him. Inside were photos of his parents, actual moving wizard photographs, along with his father's pocket watch and his mother's delicate silver bracelet. Will I see you soon? He asked anxiously. Remus smiled, resting a hand on Harry's shoulder. Very soon. As your magical guardian, I'll visit weekly to continue your education. And you can write to me anytime, the owl will find me. And the house elves? Harry whispered. They can still. Dumbledore and I agreed their protection should continue, Remus assured him. Though perhaps with less need for secrecy now. The door swung open before Harry could respond. Uncle Vernon stood there, his face an odd mixture of curiosity and resentment. Well? He demanded. What happened? Good evening, Mr. Dursley, Remus said pleasantly. As promised, Harry is back safe and sound. May I come in? We have some matters to discuss. Vernon hesitated, then grudgingly stepped aside. Petunia's in the living room. Harry followed the adults, still clutching his precious box. Aunt Petunia sat rigidly on the sofa, hands clasped tightly in her lap. Dudley was nowhere to be seen, presumably banished upstairs for this conversation. Mrs. Dursley, Remus nodded politely. Thank you for seeing me. I won't take much of your time. What's this all about? Vernon demanded, remaining standing while everyone else sat. What happened at this bank? Several important matters were resolved, Remus explained calmly. First, Harry's financial situation. As the last Potter, he inherits a significant estate that's been held in trust. That will continue to be managed by Gringotts until he comes of age at 17. Vernon's eyes gleamed with sudden interest. Estate? How significant? That's private, Remus said firmly. But rest assured, Harry's education and other needs will be well provided for. Vernon scowled, his momentary vision of accessing Harry's wealth evaporating. Second, Remus continued, I've been appointed Harry's magical guardian. This means I'll oversee his magical education and welfare, while you remain his legal guardians in the Muggle world. What does that mean, exactly? Petunia asked, speaking for the first time. It means I'll visit regularly to teach Harry about the wizarding world, his heritage, and the basics of magic. I'll also ensure he receives proper medical care from a wizard healer and anything else he needs that you can't provide. We've been providing just fine, Vernon blustered, though without much conviction. Remus's eyes hardened slightly. Have you? The house elves who found Harry starving in a cupboard might disagree. Vernon flinched, suddenly remembering the hundreds of strange creatures who had invaded his home months ago. That's ancient history, he muttered. The boy has his own room now. Proper clothes. Regular meals. Yes, Remus agreed. Thanks to intervention that should never have been necessary. He turned to Petunia. Lily would have been heartbroken to see how you treated her son, Petunia. Petunia's face flushed. You don't understand what it's been like, thrust into caring for a magical child without warning, without help. You could have asked for help, Remus said quietly. Dumbledore left instructions. A way to contact the wizarding world if you needed assistance. Well, we didn't need it, Vernon interrupted. And we don't need some scarred vagrant coming into our home telling us how to raise the boy now. Harry tensed, expecting an angry reaction, but Remus merely smiled. I'm not telling you how to raise Harry, he said mildly. I'm informing you of changes to the arrangement. Weekly visits. Proper magical education. Regular health checkups. All non-negotiable. He reached into his shabby coat and withdrew an official-looking parchment. This document, signed by the chief warlock of the Wizengamot, that's our High Court, outlines the new guardianship arrangement. Your signatures, please. And if we refuse? Vernon challenged. Then alternative arrangements will be made for Harry's care, Remus said simply. The blood protection is important, but not at any cost. Not anymore. The implied threat hung in the air. Vernon and Petunia exchanged glances, then, with obvious reluctance, signed the parchment. Excellent, Remus said, tucking it away. I'll return this Saturday at 10 for Harry's first lesson. Please have him ready. He turned to Harry with a warmer smile. Any questions before I go? Harry hesitated, then asked the question that had been burning in his mind since their visit to Gringotts. The scar, it's really from him? From Voldemort? Petunia flinched at the name. Vernon looked confused. Yes, Remus confirmed. The curse that killed your parents rebounded when it touched you, marking you but also defeating him. That's why you're famous in our world, Harry. The boy who lived. Will he come back? A shadow crossed Remus's face. Some believe he might try. That's why you need proper training, proper protection. But don't worry about that now. You're safe here, with the blood wards, the house elves watching, and now with me checking in regularly. He stood, giving Harry's shoulder a reassuring squeeze. Get some rest. I'll see you Saturday. After Remus left, an uncomfortable silence fell over the living room. Vernon looked like he wanted to explode but didn't quite dare. Petunia seemed lost in thought, perhaps remembering her sister. May I go to my room? Harry asked quietly. Petunia nodded absently. Yes, go on. Harry hurried upstairs, eager to examine his treasures in private. As he'd hoped, Dobby was waiting for him, perched on the edge of the bed. Harry Potter returns, the elf exclaimed, jumping up. Dobby has been so worried. Did the meeting go well? Is the wolf wizard kind to Harry Potter? Wolf wizard? Harry asked, confused. Oh, you mean Remus? He's brilliant. He was my dad's best friend. He set the wooden box carefully on the bed. Look what he gave me, Dobby. Pictures of my parents. And some of their things. Dobby examined the photographs with wonder as Harry explained everything that had happened at Gringotts, the inheritance, the guardianship arrangement, the promises of weekly visits and proper magical education. And Remus says you and the other elves can keep watching over me, Harry finished. He knows all about what you've done. Dobby's ears perked up. The wolf wizard approves of house elf protection. He does, Harry confirmed. And he said to thank you all, you especially, Dobby, for looking after me when no one else did. Dobby blushed, his bat-like ears quivering with emotion. Dobby was only doing what was right. You did more than that, Harry said seriously. You changed everything, Dobby. My whole life is different because of you. The house elf looked uncharacteristically thoughtful. Perhaps Harry Potter and Dobby changed each other's lives. Harry grinned. I like that idea. He carefully placed the photos on his bedside table, positioning them so his parents' smiling faces would be the first thing he saw each morning. James Potter waved cheerfully from the frame, one arm slung around Lily's shoulders as her red hair blew in some captured moment of wind. I wish they could see us now, Harry said softly. I think they'd be happy about all this. They would be very proud of Harry Potter, Dobby agreed solemnly. A shriek from downstairs interrupted their moment. Harry and Dobby exchanged alarmed glances. That was Aunt Petunia, Harry said, moving cautiously toward the door. Wait, Dobby cautioned, grabbing Harry's arm. Dobby will check first. The elf disappeared with a quiet pop. Seconds later, he reappeared, his huge eyes wider than ever. Harry Potter must come quickly, he squeaked. Something is wrong with the blood wards. Downstairs, Aunt Petunia stood frozen in the kitchen, staring at her hand. Blood dripped from a small cut, probably from the knife on the cutting board beside her, but instead of normal red blood, hers had a strange silvery quality, almost glowing as it hit the linoleum floor. What's happening to me? She whispered as Harry entered. I don't know, Harry admitted. Dobby, have you ever seen anything like this? The invisible house elf tugged at Harry's sleeve. It's the blood protection, Harry Potter. Something is interfering with it. As if on cue, the lights throughout the house flickered, then died. Outside, the streetlights went dark as well. An unnatural silence fell, as though even the ambient neighborhood sounds had been muffled. Vernon! Petunia called, her voice rising with panic. Vernon, something's happening. Uncle Vernon lumbered in from the living room, clutching a flashlight. Power outage, he grumbled. Whole street's gone dark. Nothing to panic about, Petunia. It's not just the electricity, she hissed, showing him her still bleeding hand. Look. Vernon stared at the silvery blood, his face draining of color. What the devil? Get Dudley, Petunia interrupted. Get him now. As Vernon thundered upstairs, Harry felt a chill sweep through the house, not just a drop in temperature, but something deeper, as though joy itself were being leached from the air. Dobby, he whispered, what's happening? Dark magic, the elf whispered back, now visible and trembling beside Harry. Very dark. Dobby must call for help. Before Dobby could act, a terrible scream came from upstairs, Dudley's voice, high and terrified. Vernon's shout followed, then heavy footsteps pounding down the stairs. They burst into the kitchen, Vernon dragging Dudley, whose face was ashen. The boy was babbling incoherently, eyes wild with fear. Something in my room, he gasped when he saw Harry. A thing, like a ghost but worse, it was coming for, a tremendous crack shook the house, as though something massive had struck the roof. Plaster dust rained down from the ceiling. The wards are failing, Dobby squeaked in panic. Harry Potter must leave. Now. What the hell is going on? Vernon roared, turning on Harry. What have you done? I haven't done anything. Harry protested. But Dobby's right, we need to go. All of us. It's not safe here anymore. We're not going anywhere, Vernon declared, though his voice quavered. This is our home. Another crack, louder than the first, and the kitchen windows shattered inward. Petunia screamed, covering her face as glass sprayed across the room. Dobby snapped his fingers, creating a shield that protected Harry from the worst of it. Call your wizard friends, Vernon ordered Harry, his bravado crumbling. That Lupin fellow. Call him now. I don't know how. Harry cried. He only just became my guardian today. Dobby tugged urgently at Harry's sleeve. Dobby will get help, Harry Potter. The elves will come. The house elf disappeared with a pop, leaving the Dursleys staring in shock at the spot where he'd stood. Was that, Vernon began. One of the creatures from before, Harry confirmed grimly. And he's bringing more. They'll help us. Those little freaks. Vernon scoffed, though his voice shook. What can they do against, whatever this is? As if in answer to his question, a high, cold laugh echoed through the house, a sound so unnatural, so filled with malice, that even Vernon fell silent in terror. The boy, hissed a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Bring me the boy, and you may live. Who's there? Vernon called, trying to sound authoritative but achieving only a frightened squeak. I'm warning you, I'm armed. The laugh came again, closer now. Muggle fool. Your weapons are useless against Lord Voldemort's servant. Harry felt his scar burn suddenly, a sharp pain lancing across his forehead. He gasped, pressing his hand against it. Harry. Petunia's voice was barely a whisper. What's happening? It's him, Harry said through gritted teeth. Or someone working for him. Voldemort. The dark wizard who killed my parents. The temperature dropped further. Frost began forming on the kitchen windows. Dudley whimpered, pressing against his mother. We need to hide, Harry decided, fighting through the pain in his scar. Somewhere with no windows. The cupboard under the stairs. That tiny space. Vernon protested. We can't all fit in there. We have to try, Petunia said, grabbing Dudley's hand. Vernon, come on. The family moved as one toward the hallway, Harry bringing up the rear. As they reached the cupboard, his old prison, now potentially their sanctuary, a figure materialized in the front doorway. It was a man, or what remained of one. Gaunt, hollow-cheeked, with matted hair and tattered robes. But it was his eyes that stopped Harry cold, burning red, filled with hatred and hunger. Harry Potter, the figure rasped. My master will be so pleased. Run! Harry shouted, pushing the Dursleys toward the cupboard. Get inside. Lock the door. What about you? Petunia asked, surprising Harry with her concern. I'll hold him off until help comes, Harry said with more confidence than he felt. Go. As the Dursleys crammed themselves into the cupboard, Harry faced the intruder, trying to remember anything useful from his brief magical education so far. He had no wand, no training, nothing but raw instinct and the desperate hope that Dobby would return soon. The gaunt man smiled, revealing blackened teeth. Brave little Harry. Just like your parents before they died. Perhaps you'll last a few seconds longer than they did. He raised a wand, and Harry braced himself, knowing whatever came next would be beyond his ability to counter. But before the man could cast a spell, a thunderous sound filled the house as dozens, no, hundreds, of tiny cracks split the air. The gaunt man spun around, his red eyes widening in shock. The front garden of number 4, Privet Drive was filled with house elves. They stood shoulder to shoulder, covering every inch of the lawn, the driveway, even the roof. Their normally docile expressions were gone, replaced with fierce determination. And at their head stood Dobby, his small chest puffed out, his tennis ball eyes blazing with protective fury. "Harry Potter," he called, his squeaky voice somehow carrying clearly through the chaos. "Step away from the door. The elves of Britain have come to fight." The gaunt man stared at the assembled house elves, momentary confusion replacing his confidence. "What is this?" he snarled. "Some pathetic army of servants? You dare challenge Barty Crouch Jr., the Dark Lord's most faithful?" "We dare," Dobby interrupted, stepping forward. "Harry Potter is under the protection of the house elves. You will not touch him." Crouch threw back his head and laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "House elves? What will you do, dust me to death? Polish my shoes? Know your place, creatures." Dobby didn't respond with words. Instead, he raised one long-fingered hand and snapped. The ground beneath Crouch's feet liquefied, instantly becoming quicksand that pulled him knee-deep before re-solidifying, trapping him in place. His wand arm remained free, however, and he slashed it furiously through the air. "Confringo," he screamed. A ball of fire erupted from his wand, hurtling toward the front line of elves. But it never reached them. Pipsy, standing beside Dobby, casually raised her hand, and the fireball froze mid-air, then transformed into a flock of butterflies that scattered harmlessly. "Wizards always underestimate house elf magic," she said calmly. "Very foolish." Crouch's face contorted with rage. Avada, he never finished the killing curse. 20 elves snapped their fingers simultaneously, and his voice cut off, the wand flying from his grip into Dobby's waiting hand. "Harry Potter," Dobby called, "please join us outside. The house is no longer safe." Harry hesitated, glancing at the cupboard where the Dursleys were hiding. "What about my aunt and uncle? And Dudley? The blood traitors?" Crouch rasped, somehow regaining his voice despite the elves' magic. "They'll die with you, boy. My master is rising again. This house will burn. The wards are already failing." As if to emphasize his point, another tremendous crack shook the foundation of the house, and plaster rained down from the ceiling. "The Dursleys too," Harry insisted. "We can't leave them." Dobby nodded, though several elves looked less enthusiastic about saving the muggles who had abused Harry. "Tinky, Gory, escort the muggles outside." The two elves appeared instantly in the hallway beside Harry. With a snap of Tinky's fingers, the cupboard door flew open, revealing the Dursleys crouched together in terror. "Come," Tinky commanded. "Now. The house will not stand much longer. We're supposed to follow you." Vernon blurted, his face purple with a mixture of fear and indignation. Another massive crack, and part of the ceiling collapsed into the living room. "Yes," Gory said simply. "Unless you prefer being crushed." That decided it. The Dursleys scrambled out of the cupboard, following the elves toward the front door. As they passed the immobilized Crouch, Petunia gasped in recognition. You're one of them, from her world." "Silence, Muggle," Crouch spat. "Your nephew's protection is failing. He'll join his mudblood mother soon enough." Petunia flinched as though struck. But then, to Harry's astonishment, she drew herself up to her full height. "My sister," she said coldly, "was twice the person you are. And her son is under my protection." With that shocking declaration, she hustled Dudley past the trapped wizard and out onto the lawn, Vernon following in stunned silence. Harry remained in the doorway, staring at the scene before him. Hundreds of house elves stood in formation, creating a barrier between the Dursley home and the rest of Privet Drive. Beyond them, he could see confused neighbors peering from windows, probably wondering about the power outage. "Harry Potter must come outside now," Dobby urged. "The house elf magic is holding the wards together, but not for long." Harry joined the Dursleys on the lawn, where they stood awkwardly amid the sea of determined house elves. Many of the elves nodded respectfully to Harry as he passed, their expressions fierce yet reverent. "What happens now?" Harry asked, looking to Dobby. "What about him?" He gestured toward Crouch, still trapped in the doorway. "Wizard authorities have been alerted," Pipsy informed him. "Professor Dumbledore and Aurors are coming." "And the wards? Can they be fixed?" Pipsy exchanged glances with several of the older elves. "The blood protection is damaged," she said gravely. "The Dark Wizard found a way to poison it from outside. We felt it happening over the past week," explained an elderly elf Harry didn't recognize. "Subtle at first, then stronger. We thought we had more time to warn Harry Potter." "But how?" Harry asked, bewildered. "Remus said I was safe here." Before any elf could answer, a series of loud cracks announced the arrival of wizards. Dumbledore appeared first, his purple robes swirling around him, his face set in uncharacteristic anger. Behind him came several stern-looking witches and wizards in official-looking robes, wands at the ready. "Headmaster Dumbledore," called Pipsy. "The Dark Wizard is contained, but the wards are failing rapidly." Dumbledore surveyed the scene, the house elves in battle formation, the terrified Dursleys, Harry standing protectively near Dobby, and the immobilized Crouch in the doorway. "Well done, Dobby," he said gravely. "Once again, the house elves prove their worth when wizards fail." He strode forward, the sea of elves parting to let him through. As he reached the trapped Crouch, his blue eyes hardened. "Bartemius Crouch Jr., he said coldly. "We believed you had died in Azkaban." "The faithful find ways to serve their master," Crouch rasped, still struggling against the elves' magic. "He will rise again. The boy won't escape a second time." "Take him," Dumbledore ordered the official-looking wizards, who stepped forward cautiously. "The house elf magic is all that holds him," Dobby warned. "We must release it for you to take him." "On my mark," said a grim-faced witch with short gray hair. 3, 2, 1, now. The elves released their hold simultaneously as the Aurors cast binding spells. There was a brief, violent struggle as Crouch thrashed against his new restraints, then he went limp, glaring hatefully at Harry. "He will kill you all," he whispered. "My lord returns." "Take him to the ministry," the gray-haired witch ordered. "Maximum security." As the Aurors disappeared with their prisoner, Dumbledore turned to the house behind them. His face grew grave as he studied the magical energy surrounding it. "The blood protection is indeed failing," he confirmed. "Poison from within, it seems. An insidious piece of dark magic that's been working for months." "Months?" Harry echoed. "But we only just fixed the guardianship today." "Perhaps that was the trigger it waited for," Dumbledore mused. "Or perhaps it's merely coincidence. Either way, the wards cannot be salvaged. This house is no longer safe for you, Harry." Vernon, who had been struck speechless by the unprecedented events, finally found his voice. "What about us?" he demanded. "This is our home. What happens to us?" Dumbledore regarded him coolly. "Your home will be restored, Mr. Dursley. The physical damage repaired, the neighbors' memories modified. You may continue your life here, if you wish." "And the boy?" Petunia asked quietly. "Harry can no longer stay here," Dumbledore said. "The blood protection was our strongest defense against Voldemort's followers. Without it, he'll come with me," said a new voice. Remus Lupin pushed through the crowd of elves, looking disheveled as though he'd dressed in a hurry. "As his magical guardian, I'll take full responsibility." "Remus," Dumbledore acknowledged with a nod. "I expected you might volunteer. Where will we go?" Harry asked, moving to Remus's side. "I have a cottage," Remus said. "Small, but secure. We'll place it under the Fidelius charm immediately." "And the house elves?" Harry asked, looking at Dobby with concern. "They saved us. All of us." "Indeed they did," Dumbledore agreed, turning to address the assembled elves. The wizarding world owes you a debt of gratitude that cannot easily be repaid. We need no payment, Pipsy said firmly. We protected Harry Potter because it was right. And because he is our friend, Dobby added, moving to stand beside Harry. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose slightly. Friendship between house elves and wizards. How extraordinary. He smiled at Dobby. And yet, perhaps not so extraordinary after all. The capacity for friendship exists in all magical beings. Will they be punished? Harry asked anxiously. For using magic without permission? For organizing? Punished? Dumbledore looked genuinely surprised. My dear boy, they will be honored, privately, of course, as I suspect they would prefer. Their actions tonight have saved not only your life but potentially many others by capturing one of Voldemort's most dangerous supporters. The Dursleys, who had been following this exchange with mounting bewilderment, finally seemed to realize that their lives had irrevocably changed. So that's it then? Vernon asked, his bluster returning now that the immediate danger had passed. The boy leaves, and we go back to normal. Nothing will be quite normal again, I'm afraid, Dumbledore said gently. The events of tonight will have repercussions far beyond Privet Drive. He turned to Harry. You should gather your belongings, Harry. Only what's truly important. The rest can be sent later. Harry nodded, hesitating only briefly before heading back into the damaged house, Dobby at his side. Together they hurried to his bedroom, where Harry pulled his treasured wooden box from under the loose floorboard and stuffed a few clothes into his school backpack. Dobby, Harry said as he worked, what happens to us now? Will I still see you? Of course, Dobby assured him. Dobby will visit Harry Potter wherever he goes. And Harry Potter will always have the protection of the house elves. But you still belong to the Malfoys, Harry pointed out. Won't they notice if you keep disappearing? Dobby's expression grew thoughtful. Things are changing, Harry Potter. For all house elves. Tonight proves what we can do together. Before Harry could press further, a sharp crack from the floor below reminded them of the house's precarious state. We should hurry, Dobby urged. The magic holding the structure is weakening. They returned to the front garden, where Remus was deep in conversation with Dumbledore and the Dursleys stood awkwardly amid the still assembled house elves. The neighbors, Harry noticed, seemed to have disappeared, likely the work of wizards modifying memories. All set? Remus asked as Harry approached. Harry nodded, clutching his backpack and the wooden box. He turned to the Dursleys, unsure what to say after everything that had happened. To his surprise, Aunt Petunia stepped forward first. Harry, she said stiffly, we. She faltered, then straightened her shoulders. Be careful. It wasn't an apology, or even particularly warm, but from Aunt Petunia, it was practically a declaration of affection. I will, Harry promised. Thank you for. He struggled to find something to thank them for. For everything. Dudley, who had remained uncharacteristically silent throughout the ordeal, suddenly blurted out, will those ghost things come back for us? No, Dudley, Dumbledore assured him kindly. Special protections will be placed on your home. No dark wizards will trouble you again. Vernon, still processing the night's events, merely grunted what might have been a goodbye. As Harry turned to leave with Remus, he caught sight of number 4 itself, the home that had never really been a home to him. Cracks ran up the walls, windows were shattered, and part of the roof had caved in. It seemed a fitting end to his time there. Ready? Remus asked, placing a gentle hand on Harry's shoulder. Almost. Harry looked back at the assembled house elves, 100 strong, who had come when called and fought for him without hesitation. I need to say goodbye properly. He approached Dobby and Pipsy, who stood at the front of the elfish army. I don't know how to thank you, he said, voice thick with emotion. All of you. Harry Potter never needs to thank us, Pipsy said firmly. We chose to help. That choice was our freedom. But I want to do something for you in return, Harry insisted. When I'm older, when I learn more magic, there must be something I can do for house elves. Harry Potter has already done it, Dobby said, his huge eyes shining with unshed tears. Harry Potter treated Dobby like an equal. Like a friend. That changes everything. Harry knelt to bring himself eye level with Dobby. You are my friend. My first friend. That won't ever change, no matter where I go. Impulsively, he hugged the small elf. After a moment of shock, Dobby returned the embrace, his thin arms surprisingly strong. Dobby will find Harry Potter wherever he goes, the elf promised. And if Harry Potter ever needs the house elves again. I know, Harry smiled. You'll come. He stood, addressing the gathered elves one last time. Thank you all. I won't forget what you did tonight. What you've done for me since Dobby first found me. A chorus of squeaky voices responded with variants of, You're welcome, Harry Potter, and, We serve the boy who lived. But one phrase, repeated by many, caught Harry's attention, the friend of elves is always protected. The friend of elves. Harry liked that title much better than the boy who lived. As he returned to Remus's side, ready to leave Privet Drive forever, Harry felt not sadness but a strange sense of rightness. His life had changed dramatically in just a few months, from a starved, abused child in a cupboard to a wizard with a magical guardian, an inheritance, and an army of house elf friends. And it had all started because one small elf had noticed a child in need and decided to act. Where to now? Harry asked Remus, taking his hand. Home, Remus said simply. Your new home. As they prepared to apparate, Harry looked back one last time at Dobby, standing proud among his fellow elves. Their eyes met, and an understanding passed between them. This wasn't an ending but a beginning. The start of something new for both of them. With a crack, Harry and Remus disappeared, leaving Privet Drive behind. The house elves remained, watching over the Dursleys as wizards worked to repair the damage to the house and modify the neighbors' memories. One by one, they began to disappear, returning to their duties across Britain. Soon, only Dobby remained, staring at the spot where Harry had stood. Be safe, Harry Potter, he whispered. Then, with a determined straightening of his tea towel, he too vanished. The Battle of Privet Drive was over. But the war, against dark wizards, against prejudice, against the very structures of magical society, had only just begun. 2 weeks later Remus's cottage in the Yorkshire countryside was nothing like Privet Drive. Small but cozy, with bookshelves lining every wall and magical objects scattered throughout, it felt more like home to Harry in 2 weeks than number 4 had in 3 years. Harry sat at the kitchen table, practicing the magical theory Remus had been teaching him. Without a wand, he couldn't perform actual spells yet, but he could learn the foundations, the history, the principles that would serve him when he eventually attended Hogwarts. A soft pop announced Dobby's arrival. The house elf appeared with a tray of tea and biscuits, his usual tea towel replaced by what appeared to be a child-sized sweater with extra holes cut for his arms. Harry Potter is studying hard, Dobby observed, setting down the tray. Remus says I'm ahead of where most wizard children my age would be, Harry said proudly. Probably because I have such a good tutor. He grinned at Dobby. The house elf's ears wiggled with pleasure. Dobby is happy to teach Harry Potter about magic from the house elf perspective. Most wizards never learn such things. Harry poured tea for both of them, another thing that would have been unthinkable at the Dursleys, treating a house elf as an equal guest. How are the others? He asked. The council still meeting. Every week, Dobby confirmed. More elves joining too. Nearly 500 now. And the Malfoys haven't noticed your extracurricular activities? Dobby's expression turned sly. Dobby has learned to be very efficient with his work. Finishes chores in half the time, leaving hours free. Clever, Harry approved. And Pipsy's negotiations with the ministry? Any progress? Some, Dobby said cautiously. Professor Dumbledore has been helping. The Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures is resistant to change. They'll come around, Harry said confidently. Or we'll find another way. The "we" wasn't lost on Dobby, whose eyes shone with emotion. Harry Potter considers house elf freedom his cause too. Of course, Harry said simply. You're my friends. Your freedom matters to me. Before Dobby could respond, the cottage door opened, and Remus entered, accompanied by Dumbledore. Ah, Harry, Dobby, Dumbledore greeted them cheerfully. Just the duo I hope to find. May we join you? Harry gestured to the empty chairs. Please. Dobby brought enough tea for everyone. As the wizard settled at the table, Harry noticed they both carried official-looking documents. We've had news from the Ministry, Remus explained. About Crouch. Is he still in prison? Harry asked anxiously. Very much so, Dumbledore assured him. In fact, his interrogation has revealed quite a lot about Voldemort's potential plans. Thanks to his capture, several dark artifacts have been recovered and 3 more Death Eaters arrested. So we're safer now. For the moment, Remus said carefully. Though Crouch's presence at Privet Drive confirms our fears that Voldemort's supporters haven't given up. Dumbledore nodded gravely. Which brings us to our other news. The Wizengamot has reviewed the events at Privet Drive and made an unprecedented decision regarding house elves. Dobby sat up straighter, his enormous eyes fixed on Dumbledore. For the first time in wizarding history, Dumbledore continued, house elves have been officially recognized for their service to wizardkind. The Council of Elves, as you call yourselves, has been granted status as a protected magical organization with the right to assemble. What does that mean exactly? Harry asked, glancing at Dobby, who seemed too shocked to speak. It means, Remus explained, that house elves can continue to meet without fear of punishment from their masters. They remain bound to service, but their right to organize for the specific purpose of protecting magical children has been acknowledged. It's a small step, Dumbledore admitted, but significant. A crack in a very old system. And it's only the beginning, Harry declared. Right, Dobby? The house elf finally found his voice. Right, he squeaked. Only the beginning. Indeed, Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. I suspect the magical world has only begun to feel the effects of what started in a cupboard under the stairs on Privet Drive. Harry looked around the table, at Remus, who had become the father figure he'd never had, at Dumbledore, whose initial mistake had been followed by genuine support, at Dobby, his first and most loyal friend. I wouldn't change any of it, he said quietly. Even the cupboard. Because it led to all of you. A remarkably mature perspective, Harry, Dumbledore observed. Your parents would be very proud of the young man you're becoming. They would indeed, Remus agreed, ruffling Harry's hair affectionately. Though perhaps a bit alarmed at your tendency to find yourself at the center of magical revolutions before you've even started school. Harry grinned. I've got 7 years until Hogwarts. Imagine what trouble I can get into by then. Dobby groaned dramatically, though his eyes sparkled with mischief. Dobby fears Harry Potter will need full-time elf protection at this rate. Lucky for me, Harry said, raising his teacup in a toast, I have the best magical protection in Britain, the friendship of house elves. As they all laughed together, wizard, werewolf, house elf, and the boy who lived, Harry felt a contentment that had nothing to do with magic and everything to do with belonging. He had found his place in the magical world, and it was alongside these unlikely allies who had changed his life forever. Outside the cottage window, unseen by those gathered around the table, a small garden gnome placed a flower on the windowsill before scurrying away. Soon, word would spread through the magical creature community, the friend of elves welcomed gifts from all. And in the years to come, as Harry Potter grew into his power and his purpose, that friendship would reshape the wizarding world in ways no prophecy could have predicted. All because one house elf had looked into a cupboard and decided that no child, wizard or muggle, should ever suffer alone. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.